Thanks for staying tuned. Our first discussion today focuses on the economic side of governance, specifically how Akwa Ibom can activate the enormous revenue potential inside underutilized state-owned assets across tourism, industrial zones, agriculture, logistics corridors, and even dormant government properties. There is real value waiting to be unlocked, but what frameworks are needed? What bottlenecks must be cleared? And what role can the private sector play in all of this? To help us unpack this, we're joined by our guest for this segment, founder and executive director, Ibom Peer Foundation. He was also the Senior Programs Officer on Energy Extractives and Climate Justice at Policy Alert. Mr. Mfon Gabriel joins us live on the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on here with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, when we talk about underutilized assets and what the experience is, if you look across Akwa Ibom, not just Akwa Ibom now, if you were to even extend your view across the Niger Delta region, you'd see that governments usually invest a lot of money in putting together projects, but eventually the problem now becomes how these projects, how these assets are utilized, are put into good use to translate to the much needed internally generated revenue. I don't know how much that is an issue in Akwa Ibom State, but can we broadly understand what it would mean to say underutilized assets in the Akwa Ibom context and experience?
Okay, so generally when we talk about assets, we are talking about value, properties of value that could add benefits in the current setting or even in the future. And like you rightly mentioned, the state is actually blessed with enormous potential. When you talk about underutilized asset, you're equally saying that there's some aspects of the state that is yielding revenue, while other aspects of the state's resources or investments are not actually bringing returns. So first, in the context of Akwa Ibom, there's been, for more than the past 10 years, we have been expecting, the commissioning, to put a better word, of Ibom Deep Seaport. And as someone that has actually engaged and interrogated fiscal data, that is the state budget data, what we have equally observed is that the state government has actually invested so much. And under the present administration of Governor Moino, not so much has been said about it compared to what the Udom administration was doing.
It's just starting.
Is that?
It's just starting.
No, like the project has been for over 10 years. So the question of say just starting doesn't make sense. We have in a context like the Lekki Deep Seaport project. The Lekki Deep Seaport project came to meet Ibom Deep Seaport, but today Lekki Deep Seaport is commissioned. So what that equally implies is that government must be intentional. And in this context, we expect the government of Moino to actually drive that vision. You shouldn't abandon it. So much funds have been sink into it, especially by the past administration. We used to learn of Power China as an investor, for that project, but nobody's saying anything about it. So we expect continuity of that project. We expect resources should be channeled towards the right direction. And where there are leakages, in terms of where funds have been plopped to, we expect that is, curtailed. That is one. We also have the 21-story building that is, not too far away from this studio. And since 2021, it was commissioned, that facility has remained underutilized. And we know the general idea behind, building such kind of superstructure. We were expecting that ExxonMobil will, have their operational headquarters there. But some of us were actually querying, the idea behind it, because as at that time, Mobil was not ready to do that. And as we speak, Mobil has divested from Akwa Ibom State. Mobil is no longer doing business in Akwa Ibom State. In place of Mobil, we have Seplat. So I don't know to what extent the Akwa Ibom State government is doing to engage with the new board of director. At least we now have Senator Dodoma as the MD as the chairman of SEPLAT. At least that engagement should continue. But beyond that, we expect that the state government should, to a large extent, open up that space so that potential businesses can, come in.
Okay, then, let me come in there, Mr. Mfon. This story building has been here for a while now, and if SEPLA doesn't come in, or the suggestions you give, how well can we still utilize that building to ensure that we, gain the needed economic benefit from it?
Yeah, so I know Akwa Ibom State is still a growing or an emerging economy, right? So what I'm saying is that it needs to be opened up so that other private sector companies, can equally take advantage of it. But I'm also aware that sometimes last year thereabouts, the state government they were putting some advert out on companies to come in and rent the facility. Yes, but not so much adverts have been done to that effect, and I expect that that should be strong so that potential businesses that find Akwa Ibom State as a place of investment could leverage on that.
But what about the maintenance of the structure?
Yeah, so that is the challenge. Actually, it's a challenge because that facility, every now and then, even though it's underutilized, budgeted funds are being, released to maintain that facility, and it actually doesn't make sense, for us to have such kind of structure and not yielding revenue to the state, and we just spend so much funds to do it. But that is generally the idea behind building projects like this. You must have an end game in mind, right? So the end game they had in mind was not actually working, and that's why we are in the situation that we are in. So this is actually a lessons learned. We need to think through whatever projects we intend to do, and more importantly, there should be needs assessments. Needs assessment should be on ground. I remember Akwa Ibomites, we are very strong and vocal about this project, but the state government, proceeded to do what it intend to do. But we already have it, so we must look for ways to see that that asset is fully utilized.
Okay, well, when we look at the size of these assets that you have spoken of, another aspect that is very critical is how effectively can they mobilize to ensure that persons that are interested to be part of these facilities can come in. When you look at the entire blueprint of these structures and how they came to be, do you think that a lot of work should have come in towards ensuring that they are properly structured and the modus operandi of ensuring that it comes to bear were followed through? When we look at that generally, do you think that that was lacking?
So like I said, the original idea for that project was to have mobile there. And it was, to me, it was not concrete. And maybe there were other ideas behind it which are not actually known to the public, and it's not in my position to assume, right? But what we know, what was in public domain was mobile is coming in. And since mobile failed, what was the plan B? It shows that there was no plan B. The fact that that asset is underutilized today means that there was no plan B.
Are there right ideas, suggestions that you could possibly proffer towards ensuring that perhaps maybe it's an issue of lack of the insights as to what that particular property could be used for currently? For instance, the 21-story building that you spoke of now. What other areas can the state government look into now that mobile is not coming for now? What other areas could they possibly look into towards ensuring that in years to come, that facility can actually generate money to sustain itself and even generally also support Akwa Ibom in terms of IGR?
Yeah, I agree with you because we actually need revenue. The fact that we're already funding it by maintaining that structure doesn't make so much sense. So, but like I said, SEPLAT that has actually taken over from Mobile, that engagement can continue. We already have new investors coming in. What's it called? The guys that are intending to do the refinery at the Stop Creek and all of that. It's actually an opportunity for them to have the operational base here. We also have Sterling Global, right? They can equally have the office in this space. NUPRC, the regulator, can equally, although I know they have a state office at Eket, but again, they can equally have a base here. NNPC at some point was equally talking about, utilizing this. So it's actually an opportunity for us to look at the entire value chain of the oil and gas sector to see those of them operating in the state should have a space here.
Should it only be oil and gas sector?
You said? No, because then the original idea was centered around oil and gas.
Okay.
So the company is actually doing business in Akwa Ibom State, and that engagement should be done with them. That is one. Secondly, I know that the state is equally into hospitality, but we also have lots of hotels and all of that. But if that structure could be ceded to a big vendor and all of that, it could actually serve as a win-win situation for the state. Especially
considering its vantage point. Some people believe that if it were to be used or carved out for the hospitality sector, it could actually generate a lot of interest from persons even outside the state. Do you share in that insight?
Yeah, I share in it because it's better than just having the structure there. And again, we very soon will be marking the the Christmas village and all of that. So that is equally a window for tourism and all of that. So if we have such kind of facility up here that people could lodge and do business and all of that, that could make some sense.
All right, Mr.
Then I also thought of the other sectors of the state that we're equally not taking advantage of, which is around the solid minerals. Akwa Ibom State is equally blessed with some solid mineral resources, even though we strongly dependent on oil and gas. But if you look at what has actually come into the state in terms of revenue from the solid mineral, it's just about 230 million naira in between 2015 to 2021, and that is poor. Just only in 2023, Cross River State has actually earned over 600 million naira in solid minerals. So we are blessed with limestone, we are blessed with rare earths, we are blessed with silica, and all of that, and we're only blessed with some of aluminum minerals. So this is an opportunity for the state to, invest in knowing the actual data. What I mean by the data, the level of reserves for these resources, so that that could attract investors to come in. And also at the coastal areas where we are known for fishing and all of that, the state has not been taking advantage of it. I know that some personal businesses, have been investing at that level. But in terms of taxation, in terms of what the state government takes from, the fishing industries in the state, is very minimal. And the fact that we have the longest coastal lines in the state, what that equally means that the state government should, equally invest in commercial fishing, right? Even if we can have a state-owned fishing company, to take advantage of the maritime potential of the state, that could actually, go a long way to add, revenue for our state governments.
All right, Mr. Mfon, let's look at the power sector, the Ibom power plant. The state, I don't know whether we are actually taking advantage or making good use of this power plant to generate, revenue for the state.
Okay, yes, that's instructive. Ibom power plant generates 191 megawatts of electricity, and thankfully, the Tinubu's government has equally, allowed state government to, come into that space, and Akwa Ibom State government has equally leveraged on that with the establishment of the Akwa Ibom State Electricity Distribution Company. When you look at the value chain of the power sector, from the gencos, right? The company generating the power, to the transmission company, and down to the distribution company. For a long time, whatever the power that is being generated from Ibom power plant is sold to the transmission company, and then from the transmission company to other distribution company. So, for example, Akwa Ibom State is being powered by the Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company, but with the constitution being amended and allowing state governments to come into generating power and equally distributing power. The Akwa Ibom state government has established the electricity distribution company. So what we are expecting from the state government is equally to bring operations into this, yes, and then put in systems. If it's possible to buy some of the assets of Port Harcourt distribution companies, the city can buy those assets, and then Akwa Ibom state government can equally, utilize the power that's generated from Ibom power plants. But I also know that Ibom power plant has equally been facing some issues. Some turbines have been having, problems, and there have been speculations to even sell off that asset. But I think that's not a good idea. All that it should be fixed, and it will be a good thing for us to generate our own power, because the power that's generated there is enough to power Akwa Ibom State and equally, supply, other states. So it's an asset that needs to be leveraged on and utilized fully. Just imagine, for example, all the bills we pay to the Port Harcourt distribution companies paid to, Ibom distribution company.
Talking about power generation, now you just brought to mind the ASCON at Ikorobasi, which also has a capacity to generate electricity. What do you have to say about this particular facility that's been dormant for a while now?
Well, that's more like a federal government facility, not owned by the state government. So at most what is possible is for there to be an handshake between the federal government and the state government. And if it's possible for the state government to take ownership of it. But again, that asset needs to be revalued. We need to assess and evaluate what is left on ground, because we learned that so much has been sold in that asset. So we need to know what we are taking over.
All right, Mr. Mfon Gabriel, just before we let you go now, finally, if you were to advise the state government now, possibly the state houses of assembly, regarding that single legal reform or framework that can go into ensuring that we prioritize to unlock the potential of the revenue potential of Akwa Ibom State, what would that be? Especially as we talk about ensuring that underutilized assets are put into good use.
Okay, so in terms of, I don't think it's so much about regulations or laws. Some of these laws are already on ground. Is for the executive to, implement these laws to the latter, right? We just talked about Ibom Deep Sea Ports. It's already a law, and that is why it's been funded all of this while, right? So what that equally implies that government needs to be intentional and deliberate, right? And also, what the House of Assembly could do too is to play its role of oversight, and that is equally it's been lacking. And they need to call to question the amount of money we've been putting on these assets. What has it yielded? What is the gains from it? So the House of Assembly actually needs to step up in this oversight. We have so much investment that's gone into the deep sea port and the, what's it called? The MRO rights, where the planes needs to be serviced and all of that. So much funds has been gone into it. And it was equally commissioned just at the eve of Moino's takeover. What has happened since then? Why are we not hearing anything about it? So what I will advise the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly to do is to do so much of the oversight and possibly bring the executive to the house and let us know the true state of some of this investment. It's key.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Founder, Executive Director, Ibom Peer Foundation, and also former Senior Programs Officer on Energy Extractives and Climate Justice and Policy Alert, Mr. Mfon Gabriel. Thank you for speaking to us on the program.
Thank you for coming around, Mr. Mfon.
We'll take a breather and return with the next focus of the day. So stay tuned.